So it is very important for folks to do the first part, to do the comprehension piece, to gauge what their, you said, understanding value level is.
That's correct.
So that they know that they need to either receive things at that level or not.
Or the third alternative is not to understand them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is always an unfortunate situation. Most of the world's problems are keyed on great misunderstandings. We actually have a list of the 10 biggest misunderstandings in world history, but there's a lot of them that have gone on, and we don't even want to get into the history course today. But most things are just people's failure to communicate. Now, some of that is a function of language, too.
Right.
And so the TextMaster product, the product that handles text readability, also translates into 12 languages back and forth from English.
Is that right?
So,
that's all included as part of...
Oh, it's all part of the package.
Right.
It's just a flick of the wrist. You can translate it to Italian or Spanish or anything you would like a paragraph to be translated or the whole document to be translated into. This is important when you're communicating with people that don't speak English, of course.
Right, of course.
And, of course, the main thrust of the product is to help people who don't speak English at the level other people are writing English, so that we can all tone down or modify our writing so that our audience can understand. It's interesting that Harry Potter series, which everybody's generally familiar with the Harry Potter series, that series is written at around 900 to 925. Every page... Ms. Rowling has become a billionaire, richer than the Queen, some people say, by being able to write consistently, using one of these engines, of course, to monitor and write everything at that level. The USA Today, to people that are watching, is written at around 1050. The Wall Street Journal is at 1440.
So that would mean, to understand it on a regular basis, to have a full understanding, you'd probably have to have a little bit of college education.
Today you would, because college education is not a good gauge of a person's literacy anymore. We know from testing several hundred college graduates, and I won't even name the colleges we've tested, but good ones. The average college graduate is nowhere near 1,600, which would be what the numbers would call for a model college graduate to be a 1,600 reader. Most they range from 750 at the senior level to maybe as much as 1,450. You rarely see a 1,600 reader at the college level. So the USA Today is written comfortably at around the 10th grade level. The Wall Street Journal is written about the second, third year in college level, and is excruciating for some people, boring and of no interest to some. Economist magazine is north of that, and it goes on up from there. So you got a lot of things that are difficult to read. We believe, Greg, that it's some professions or some industries require people to actually be measured this way to do their jobs. We can use a couple simple examples.
Yeah, please.
Airline pilots would have to be able to fly airplanes at a certain level of proficiency. They'd have to be able to see well. They'd have several things that you would measure before you let them be employed as a pilot for your airline. My brother was a musician, a professional musician for 35 years, played the principal horn with the North Carolina Symphony. They had to be sure that he could play the French horn before they'd let him be in the symphony. And they'd have to know exactly how well he played the French horn. They'd test him for that. A baseball pitcher trying out in Florida right this month would have to be able to pitch the ball pretty fast and accurately to be brought on board as a baseball pitcher. It's amazing to me, and these are simple examples, and they may seem foolish, but if you think about American industry or government hiring people when the most important criterion is how well they read and write and can be trained and can communicate with each other and with their customers and with the taxpayers and with everyone else, there's almost no interest given by anybody in doing this, what we do. Now, that's, I think, because it's never been done before.
It's never been done before.
We have patents pending on the processes and whatever. But that doesn't mean that everybody can't do it now, and so we're hoping everyone will say, well, gee, that should have been done before. Well, we wish we were doing that.
That is tough to break ground, Larry, isn't it? It really is tough to get out into the market as the first out.
That's why being on the show is good for us, and we hope more people would take an interest in it.
Well, of course, Carolina People covers such a broad range, oftentimes community service projects or community individuals here, but this impacting literacy in America is so important. Understanding corporation products are so critical. albeit at the same time, how can someone use UC products to land a job? How can it help them?
Well, first of all, they should let the employer know, because he's normally not thinking about it,
Right.
that the most important thing I bring to the table to distinguish my application from the hundreds of other people trying to get this job
Right.
is that I am extremely literate. Or I am literate at whatever level I am.
Right.
It doesn't have to be extremely literate, but I know what I am. I know that I can write and read at these levels, and to know that, I've gone to take a test, and that is my score right there, and it can be certified by the company who gave me that test. In other words, it's not just something I made up.
Right.
It's another qualification that's far more important than where you went to college and what you studied and how many years you've done this and that.
Wow.
If to a knowing employer, it is the most critical variable in making a decision about hiring people. I would not hire. I've hired thousands of people. I wouldn't hire anyone anymore without knowing that. That's almost like a doctor giving you a physical without knowing your blood pressure, which years ago they didn't know. But once they found out that the systolic and diastolic pressures are critical, having a blood pressure, even a simple medical, without having that happen to you is almost unthinkable now. It would be unthinkable in the future, I would believe, for people to be hired without knowing if they fit into these jobs they're going to have to do.
Right, right.
And to know that, you need to know what does that job require in terms of readability skills. And so the two-sided market is what we...
This is critical, Larry, and the impact that it could have for businesses and will have for businesses that adopt UC products and, of course, recognize a UV scale and really put it to work.
We're hoping to make it a world standard, and it'll be done in other languages as well. But presently, we're just getting our start with 50 or 100 initial customers, corporations typically, governments, other groups. We want to point out, too, the cost of making a mistake, in hiring or placement.
Yes.
And most people who are in the hiring business know how painful it is when you finally have to fire someone, the struggles you go through with the EEOC and government agencies and lawsuits and this and that and whatever. People don't like to be fired sometimes. Others know, well, I wasn't good for that, and they just leave peacefully. Either way, the cost of that is, if you believe ADP's numbers, when the big payroll processing company says it's 1.5 times annual wages is what it costs to have a mishire. Workforce Management Magazine's number is 2.4 times annual wages. So it's somewhere in between there. You can take a high or low number. Any of those numbers are catastrophic to a company, but the most catastrophic number of all is if the person is not fired and they stay on and they continue to not sell your furniture here, or offend your customers so they never come back, or write letters in response to a customer's complaint or question that is so fraught with errors that the customer will never even write or see your company again and will tell stories about you at every cocktail party for 25 years. Okay. So these are the people who stay and can't be fired that are far more dangerous than the cost of firing and rehiring someone. But training costs, retraining again costs, firing and hiring, all of that just shows you, it's just a tip of the iceberg of the problem of people frustrated and unhappy in their jobs, unable to perform like they'd like to perform, and it's all because typically instructions are not written in a way that they can understand them, because nobody understands what level they can understand things at. And so that's what we're about.
That is tremendous, Larry, when you think about the practical nature of that and how critical this could be. If it was a $50,000 a year hire, even if you use the lower figures there, did you say manpower or the group, if you use the $75,000 hit for the 1.5 times annual wages, and that's just a basic amount, that could be, as opposed to spending $75 for the lit master as well as the text master, and to be able to utilize that is incredible. It's
a value, and the more you buy, the cheaper they get, like anything. But we're happy to make it available. Most of the people, we give them several of them free just to test it in their company. You don't have to take our word for it. You can have them free. And so we have all kinds of introductory offers going on right now, and not to commercialize it, I think the importance of it is the import it will have for America in terms of its competitiveness. because literacy is the thing. When the new flat world fully forms in the next 50 years, we're only going to have our own wits to compete with, and competing with your wits is only good since your native intelligence level is about the same as any other human on Earth. The IQ is going to be the same. Our average is going to be what it is. 100 is the average.
Right.
This is not Lake Wobegon. Some of the kids are under average. Lake Wobegon, Garrison always tells you that, and the kids are all a little above average. Well, that's not true. There is an average, and America's average, and India's average, and China's average. A lot more people in China, and we all know that the differentiator is going to be communications and our ability to do that well, and that's what we should do, and we hope we can improve that.
Those are tremendous words. Larry, thank you so much for being with us this morning. I'm sorry the time has passed away.
It flew by.
Stay tuned for more Carolina People with Larry Amick coming up next. The phone number is simple. You got to take the time to write it down. It ties in with that key phrase, with understanding everything is possible. With understanding everything is possible. For many of our viewers, it's a long-distance call, but it's worth taking the time. 919-949-4822. The website's even easier than that, understandingcorporation.com. It's got tremendous, invaluable information on there. You need to take the time. I know it's the end of the week, but you need to take the time to check this site out. It's got solutions. It's got solutions on there. With understanding everything is possible. It's got partners on there. It's got great information about the company. It's got great information about these products. You heard Larry talk about it. He wants to help make a difference. He's making a difference every day. Take the time to visit understandingcorporation.com or pick up your phone and dial 919-949-4822. You can make a difference in literacy in America.